Hello, my name is Donna Campbell. I'm in Lee Spray's workshop Tuesday 2 to 5 p.m. I was in a P to 12 co-educational independent college in the metropolitan area, 2 campuses, P to 6 and 7 to 12, approximately 700 students. I was in a year 3 classroom with 25 students of mixed ability, 2 students on an IEP, several international students and an EALD student, and also a student that transferred at the beginning of the year. That was clearly on a lower level than others. My learning intention was based on the Year 3 English Literacy Creating Text area, and the intention was that students will be able to independently write a persuasive text using the appropriate structure, language and features, and also self-assess using proofreading and editing. The diagnostic assessment was questioning and conversation, so based on William and the high impact strategies outlined. So that was the explicit teaching and the collaborative work. So we just had a discussion about if they've ever had to convince students, and we did a thumbs to the side, up and down to get confirmation across the broader spectrum. So by the end, 88% of students understood what a persuasive text was, which was really, really good. And we just finished up with Iguana, which is a persuasive children's story, which is really, really good. Good story, and it outlines clearly. And then we had a discussion about the different ways that Alex persuaded his mother. The first learning experience was to brainstorm ideas about whether a cat or dog was better. We used different colours to distinguish between the reason and opinion. And I verbalised explicitly an opening opinion introduction to students, and as a whole class they completed the task. And then we did some formative assessment, allowing the teacher to determine whether or not students understood the structure of persuasive text. So students were asked to self-report using the thumbs up, down to side way to determine. Then I probed the students with questions, just asking what part of the structure is this, where should this go, what would I put here, what is a persuasive writing, why would we use it, such and such. The next learning experience was based off what they had previously done. We did a sentence structures, so using conjunctions with their spelling words to create complex sentences. Based off their other learning experiences, they were using very, very simplistic sentences, and they weren't adding any complex to them. They were very lacking. The formative assessment, so this again was explicit, and it was as a collaborative team. We discussed what a complex sentence was. All the students understood. And then we discussed different conjunctions, and we created a word map on the whiteboard. And then I wrote a sentence out, and I explicitly went through each part of it, so of the grammar, punctuation and the layout of it. And then I also wrote up a sentence that was inadequate, and then students corrected it on their whiteboards. This is just a mock-up of a conjunction word map that we did on the board. This is so an example of a student's improvement after that formative assessment. So that was their initial on the dogs, and then that's their complex sentences afterwards. So formative assessment resources. So I also provide students with a bunch of resources outlining the different ways to produce sentence starters and to develop further their sentence structures with persuasive writing. I also provided myself as a resource, which was outlined in Mazzano, which was from a PD that we experienced on the prac. So pretty much as that the teacher is a resource, so that's why I used myself explicitly throughout the learning experiences. And students would also reflect on me and ask me questions as well. There were 3 resources. There were these 2, plus also a proofreading template, which I don't have the access to. So they're just simple sentence starters and ways to further express their writing. The next learning experience was a Mum and Bess text, and a formative assessment and explicit feedback to one particular student was that we actually sat down with them and explicitly outlined each part of the persuasive writing. But we still, like William said, you have to make sure that the person you're providing feedback to is actually doing the work and you're not. We were probing them and pushing them. We weren't giving them the exact answer. They had to progress their effort and their purpose in their writing. We were just there to make sure that they stayed on task and that they had some sort of instruction and understanding of what they actually had to do. Because as you can tell, it did improve. So the first one was about the cats and dogs, and it's very simple. The structure is poor. There's no introduction or conclusion, whereas afterwards they did provide each step. It's still very lacking, but you can tell that they've also even went through and proofread their work. At the end, they had I love my, they were actually going to write puppy, but they realized that that's actually not part of the context that they were writing, so they scribbled it out. So you can tell that they have improved their writing. I also did a summative assessment collaboratively with my supervising teacher. We clearly outlined what we needed to do by establishing the expectations. We ensured consistent understanding with our criteria that we created. I created one, they created one, as theirs had to be based on the other year 3 teachers as well. And then we also compared our samples. So I marked and then I compared mine with hers, which they were quite similar. And so I'm very happy with the outcome of that as well. So the students that I were providing Bs with, she was also providing Bs with, and I was very happy with that outcome. This is the marking criteria that I use. So I had the organisation, structure, ideas, sentence fluency and vocab, punctuation, spelling, and also the editing, which was one of my learning intentions from the very beginning. So the main ones there are the organisation, the structure, the ideas and the fluency, so the purpose of their writing, the punctuation and spelling and grammar, or more so for other achievement standards in the Australian standards. So this is evidence from student A from the very beginning to their final assessment, which is in the next slide. So from the beginning, they had simple grammar and sentence structure. And then after some formative assessment and feedback to them, including particularly on complex and sentence fluency, student A's writing is more enhanced and clear. And also in their final one, their purpose is quite, it's shown throughout their writing, and their ideas are really, really good, and they've progressed forward further than what they begun at. To progress even further though, it's just the sentence structure and fluency. Their sentences are quite long, which is marked in the C for sentence fluency, and also with the punctuation, I gave them a low B for that. That's the only thing. Otherwise, they've done really, really well. They're above satisfactory. Student B. So from the beginning, they provide a simple introduction that states a topic and conclusion that is not effective. It's just simply rewriting what they wrote at the top. The structure is evident, however, the layout in sentence fluency is inadequate. It's lacking. After the learning experience and providing them with a topic that they were actually interested in, you could tell their improvement dramatically, and providing them with them little resources to help with their sentence structure and fluency is really, really, the conclusion in this one is actually really well written compared to their final assessment, which is concerning. For future learning intention on my behalf, the feedback that I would gather from everything that I've done is that I need to explicitly explain the conclusion further. However, each other step and part of the persuasive structure is really, really good. So their final one is well written. It's above and beyond. It's very interesting. They provide amazing ideas, and it's very well written, and they have gone back and edited their work. They didn't have much spelling or anything to edit, but you can tell by the darker writing where they've actually added words in. So at the top, why I believe, in my opinion, that spring is the best season out of all the seasons was added in. I feel a strong breeze that you can fly your kite in if you want to is added in, and to dig up to find some tools to help you is added in, and other people play and join in. So they've went back, proofread, and said, oh, I can advance on my writing and add in sentence. So their editing skills are very, very good. And it's shown in their marking as well. The only thing that's lacking is the conclusion, but I wouldn't mark them down. I would still say that they're an A student. And thank you for listening about my Year 3 class.